Let's send things out to the Garden where CBS NBA insider Bill Reiter is standing by. Bill, the building was rocking once again as was expected, but wasn't enough to shake Trae Young and the Hawks. This one comes to a close in 5 games. Your initial reaction here to Game 5 is what?
Trae Young was made for this moment. He backed up every bit of the talk that he put out there over the course of this series, including, I think, Joe, it's worth noting, shaking off a pretty brutal first half. Didn't make a 3. He scored more points in that pressure-packed fourth quarter where you have to hold off the Knicks and close out your first series than he did in that entire first half. Trae Young was marvelous. He had the supporting cast that he needed, and the Hawks just looked like they were a markedly better and deeper team than the Knicks here at the Garden in this closeout game.
Yeah, just far more offensive firepower throughout this series. The offensive shortcomings, again, spelling the ultimate demise for the Knicks. But, Bill, that's been the book on Tom Thibodeau. Teams since Derrick Rose, Taj Gibson were wearing Bulls uniforms a decade ago. We know they need to add some pieces to take things to the next level offensively, but is it also a matter of schematically readjusting and assessing what this team needs to do moving forward in today's NBA?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a little bit of both, or maybe a lot of both. And let's give Thibodeau and let's give the Knicks credit. They have built maybe the most difficult thing to do with the Knicks, and that is a culture where that locker room believes in their head coach and believes in each other, and we saw that throughout the series. They're obviously a great defensive team, and they're heading in the right direction. They do need to have a little more offense, and with all respect to Julius Randle, who was an incredibly improved player this year, the most improved player in the NBA, they need a superstar. They need someone to come in and be the best player, certainly offensively, on this team. And I know that there are dreams of guys like Damian Lillard, who, by the way, even if he were to force his way out of Portland, which is far from a given, he's still playing playoff basketball. It's hard to see the pieces the Knicks would have for him or anyone like him. So for the time being, it's probably small adjustments. You're right. They've got to go out and get some shooters. They've got to get some more guys who can hit threes. And Tom Thibodeau just has to do the thing he's never done, and that's expand his offensive vision to understand that in this league, in this game, defense is great, but if you're not good at both, you're not going to go far in the postseason.
A little space and time will no doubt let Knicks fans feel that this season was one wrought with success in terms of what the expectation was coming into the season. On the other side of this, the Hawks are going to move on to the conference semis for the first time since the 2015-16 season. Before we get to the round 2 matchup with the Sixers, you alluded to it a moment ago. I want to talk about what these last 10 days meant for Trae Young, this fledgling star in a game full of them. Young, like Maximus, stepping into the Coliseum, refusing to bow before the king, shows up and shows out on basketball's most sacred grounds. What'd you learn about Trae Young and that young man this series?
That he's got something that's special and that's rare, because his greatness, which is its own rarefied air, translates to the postseason. I'm not going to name check all the NBA stars who don't do that, Joe, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of guys, including future Hall of Famers, including some that played tonight, that just have trouble in these moments, in these games, in 7-game series, imposing their will. There's a lot of pressure. It's hard. Defenses get even more challenging. It's about half-court offense. And Trae Young, at a very young age, and believe me, what was a bristling and angry and impressive building with a rabid crowd fed on that was remarkable. And again, I think it's worth noting, he shook off a pretty lackluster first half. You could feel as the Knicks would make runs, a lot of pressure building. He was cool. He was collected. He's got a big future in front of him. And I think he showed that in the postseason, in the biggest moments, under massive pressure at the Garden of all places, he's going to be an even better version of himself when it counts the most. And that is a very important thing if, like Trae Young, you have big aspirations for the postseason.
Yeah, perhaps the I'm here moment that we will look back on in years to come. Moving this thing forward, the stage is now set for a round 2 matchup with the Sixers. Joel Embiid's health casting a cloud of doubt over things for the top overall seed out east. Bill, how do these two match up if Embiid is not available to go, at least in the early going of that series with the Hawks coming up?
Yeah. It's a great question. Look, if Joel Embiid is not available, and we know that meniscus is day-to-day, and there's a history in the NBA of guys playing through the pain in the playoffs, but we know that it can swell, there can be pain. I mean, there's certainly a legitimate concern, and I think a real chance, we just don't know, but a real chance that Embiid will be limited, maybe severely limited, in the next series. If that happens, the Hawks are good enough to beat a Philly team without Embiid. This is a Sixers squad that without Joel Embiid is basically a 500, sub-500, mediocre basketball team, and the Hawks are markedly better than you might think if you just look at them over the course of the regular season, because the moment Nate McMillan became the head coach not that long ago, they improved drastically on defense. Whatever chemistry issues, and sources tell me there were some in the locker room, particularly between John Collins and Trae Young, it went away, and we've seen the byproduct of that. This is a dangerous Hawks team that is much more advanced than their age would suggest. If Embiid's there, it's a huge mountain to climb. But if he's not, or if he's limited like we've seen with Chris Paul with the Suns and Anthony Davis with the Lakers, the Hawks keep on moving on in this postseason.
Big game, Bill, breaking it all down from the Garden. Thank you, my
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.